Which celebrities have famously gotten away with serious crimes? Elvis Presley always had a thing for young girls and would invite them over for a sleepover. He was obsessed with virginal girls and called them cherries. Of course. He met his wife, Priscilla, when she was only 14. Yet people just shrugged this off and thought it was fine. O.J. Simpson. We all know it. In 1975, Aerosmith vocalist Steven Tyler convinced the parents of 14-year-old groupie Julia Holcomb to sign over guardianship to him so that she could live with him in Boston. Tyler, who was 27 at the time, dated and did drugs with Julia for 3 years before they eventually broke up after an unplanned pregnancy which resulted in an abortion. Tyler then returned Julia to her parents at the age of 17. That's just barely scratching the tip of the iceberg. It gets more messed up the more you dig into it. But nevertheless, Tyler would continue his successful music career and even be inducted to the Hall of Fame in 2001. Caitlyn Jenner drunkenly, vehicularly manslaughtered someone and basically got a slap on the wrist. Apparently it's slightly different as apparently it was an accident. I read about it years ago so it wasn't that fresh in my memory. This is your regular reminder that Chris Brown violently assaulted Rihanna. Vince Neil killed someone drunk driving. Seems like pretty much every rock and roll star from the 70s 80s raped children. John Hamm was charged in a violent hazing incident at his college fraternity that led to it being shut down in 1993. Hamm and his fraternity brothers nearly beat a pledge to death with a paddle, assaulted his genitals with a claw hammer, then set his pants on fire. The court let him go on the hazing charge on the condition that he would complete probation. Hamm shortly fled Texas before the court could file a new separate assault charge. Salman Khan. So many famous crimes, killing a black buck, hit and run with his car, etc. They even made a game on one of his crimes, and he got that game banned from Play Store. No, not the guy from Khan Academy. Victor Salva, director of Jeepers Creepers. The man is a convicted pedophile who filmed himself molesting a 12-year-old boy and only served 15 months. Still making movies now. Paul Rudd stole everyone's heart. Pretty sure Charlie Sheen has a lot to answer for yet has somehow never served any serious jail time, aside from other numerous domestic abuse accusations in his past. He actually shot Kelly Preston in the arm during their relationship. I don't think anything came from that. Preston was probably just glad to get away alive. I do sometimes wonder how many DUIs get swept away here in Southern California. Marcos Alonso, a Spanish footballer who plays for Chelsea. He killed a 19-year-old girl while driving drunk and got away with little real punishment. Steve Tyler convincing the parents of a 14-year-old to sign over guardianship to him and then getting her pregnant is something that isn't scrutinized or condemned enough. I mean, if R. Kelly is a sexual predator, why does this guy seem to come out unscathed? BTW, in no way justifying what R. Kelly is alleged to have done. This thread is a real eye-opener. So people like Britney Spears and Amanda Bynes have their names run through the mud after having breakdowns. But some other celebrities have committed actual horrible crimes and nothing happens to them. This is awful. Prince Andrew. R. Kelly and his sex tape with a 14-year-old. Bill Cosby raped a bunch of people and called it a day. Apparently he's getting a new show after getting out of prison on a technicality for drugging and raping people. Roman Polanski. He's had a hell of a life, but never faced up to this one. Creep. Ray Rice beat his wife unconscious in a hotel lobby and only got suspended for 4 games. That same year, Von Miller smoked weed in a legal state and also got a 4-game suspension. So not only did Ray Rice not go to jail, but the NFL told us they equate smoking pot to violent assault. Seeing Kirk Douglas being mentioned reminded me of how Clark Gable date raped Loretta Young, resulting in a daughter she had to have in secret and pass off as adopted. She only let him meet the child once. When Young was elderly, she heard the term date rape and inquired its meaning. When told, she allegedly said, "That's what happened to me with Clark." Just awful on so many levels. The sheer amount of times this happened, and is still happening, to young women in the industry is sickening. They told OJ to put a glove on while he was wearing another glove. Nobuyusuke Kishi, Prime Minister of Japan in the late 50s. Ducker was called the Devil of Manchuria during the Japanese occupation of China and was responsible for most of Unit 731 experiments. If you don't know what it is, it makes some things about the Holocaust look tame. In the final days of the war, seeing the tides shifting violently against Japan, he decided to cooperate with the Americans so as to not be executed for crimes against humanity. Pretty disgusting human being, and he never got punished for what he did. Tobey Maguire made $25 million through fraud and illegal gambling rings. Brian Kelly, head FB coach at Notre Dame, directly caused the death of a student manager. It was a very windy day and the manager voiced his concerns about recording video of the practice from a hydraulic lift. Brian Kelly basically said, "I don't give a rat's stay up there," and the lift ended up collapsing, killing the manager. This is why his recent execution joke on national television didn't land like he thought it would. James Brown. Look him up and what legal trouble he got into over the years. Didn't seem like a very nice guy and he got arrested and charged a lot. Lots of assault, and in one case he kept a woman trapped so he could use her for sexual gratification. Might not all be true but sure were a lot of charges over the years. Anne Sekulis killed a 19-year-old boy in the UK because she was driving on the wrong side of the road and had a head-on collision with him. He was on a motorbike so he didn't stand a chance in an accident like that. Then she scurried back to the US air base she was driving from and got a flight back to the States. To this day, the US is refusing to allow her to be extradited to the UK to appear in court because of a bullet diplomatic immunity excuse that doesn't even apply to her. Ted Kennedy for leaving Mary Jo Kopechne to drown. Rick James. In 1991, him and his girlfriend kidnapped and tortured a girl, to include but not limited to sexual abuse, forcing her to smoke crack sugar, burning her with the hot crack pipes. I sure do love me some funk, but he was a certified piece of it. I'm really surprised to not have seen anyone mention Phil Spector. Yeah, he was convicted for 2 murders in the early 2000s, but it was straight up out in the open that he was an abusive, violent, and unhinged menace for the whole 40 years before that. He put the Ramones through the ducking ringer and pointed a gun at Dee over him not wanting to get back in the recording booth after spending 12 straight hours overnight in there. After that incident, Dee went on to say something along the lines of "It's only a matter of time until he kills someone." And so he would. Edit. Ringer to ringer, and he actually only had 1 murder conviction, but 2 trials. Ringer? Hardly know her. Karl Malone. A Hall of Fame basketball player who got away with impregnating a 12-year-old girl at age 20. The reason he wasn't charged was because the family of the girl knew he was going to be rich in the NBA, so they avoided charges for child support. Jussie Smollett got all charges dropped against him even though he hired people to fake a violent hate crime on him and blamed Trump supporters. Matthew Broderick. On August 5, 1987. While driving a rented BMW 316 in Enniskillen, Northern Ireland, Broderick crossed into the wrong lane and collided head-on with a Volvo. The driver, Anna Gallagher, 28, and her mother, Margaret Doherty, 63, were both killed instantly. Don King, likely one of, if not the most famous boxing promoters of all time, set up the Rumble in the Jungle and the Thriller in Manila. Served less than 4 years for stomping a man to death because he owed him $600. Pardoned. Roman Polanski. The guy fled to Europe to avoid jail in the US for drugging and raping a minor. He's living very comfortably over there and is even being given awards and celebrated in France. I feel bad for him due to his childhood and then of course, losing his wife and unborn son in such a horrific way, but that doesn't excuse what he did. Robert Wagner most likely killed Natalie Wood and got away with it. Conor McGregor. He's assaulted an old man in a bar. He's assaulted officials after fights he wasn't part of. He attacked a bus full of fighters, injuring several and emotionally scarring Rose, and for all of this, they used a bunch of it as hype for a fight in which they paid him enormously. Jimmy Page raped Lori Maddox for several years, starting when she was 13. Page knew full well that statutory abuse could get him in big trouble, even in the 70s, so went to some lengths to keep the relationship hidden. It is nevertheless heavily corroborated and well documented. Love RHCP, but Anthony Kiedis admitted to raping a 14-year-old girl when he was 24 in his own autobiography. Holy duck dude. Robert Blake, actor. To clarify, he killed his wife. She was in his car, which was parked on a side street around the corner from the restaurant, across the street and behind a dumpster next to a construction site. Then he told the police he wasn't there because he had to go back to the restaurant to get his gun. Edit. More words. The answer is always Chris Brown. That absolute piece of it. The Woody Allen story is very disturbing. Mark Wahlberg beat a Vietnamese guy blind with a bat when he was 17 and it rarely gets mentioned. Oprah. As much as I want to comment about the countless fake doctors' bad advice on her show, no, Pimp for Weinstein is the one that really should be brought to light. And no, I'm not going to post about how there is relative ambiguity and it may be fake blah blah blah. There are enough pictures and statements readily available of them together that it makes the Trump-Epstein thing look like a completely casual relationship. She either knew and helped, knew and turned a blind eye, or intentionally made every effort to not that someone could have handed her a bag with evidence that Weinstein is a sexual predator on it and she would have thrown it away without even glancing at it. Sean Penn kidnapped and tortured Madonna. Dr. Dre beat the it out of a woman in public. Ted Kennedy got drunk, drove off a pier and left a woman to die, then got people to lie for him. He also sexually assaulted women frequently. Trump incited an insurrection that the world watched happen in real time. Got away scot-free without so much as a court appearance. Has yet to concede that he lost a free and fair election. The biggest duck you to the idea of justice I've seen in my life thus far. Edit. 1. Getting a lot of comments about not mentioning his many alleged sexual assaults. I'm sure he's guilty of most of them, if not all, but the fact remains that there is no video evidence of him committing said acts. Likewise for his multiple acts of fraud. His actions leading up to and including the 6th of January are different in that regard. There is no defense there. He pretty much made it clear that he wouldn't accept any result that didn't declare him as a victor. He stated so repeatedly and for months in advance. This is why I am focusing just on that singular moment. 2. To the walking parodies defending him by calling me names. Play your self-delusional games somewhere else. I'm not American. Don't live there, and even if I was, the politics of Democrats wouldn't be compelling to me anyway. You are free to indulge in your delusions and waste your time. Just know that you are not worth a second of mine. I have nothing to say to your ilk. Now go dance your dance. Mark Wahlberg, 45 days in prison after being charged with attempted murder, is effectively getting away with it. Seems like a decent bloke these days though. Floyd Mayweather has multiple domestic violence charges with different ex-girlfriends. He got a slap on the wrist for all of them. You'd imagine after the 5th, 6th one he would be tried for multiple offenses, but he never did. Caitlyn Jenner killed someone in traffic over careless driving. XXXTentacion violently assaulted a woman and he is still praised in his death. Kobe anally violated an employee of a resort over a chair, which by today's Me Too movement would be dropped from all sponsors, and we forgot all about that. You can say charges were dropped or whatever. He still used his power and position to take advantage of a teenager. Mike Tirico has had many sexual assault allegations leveled against him and he is still the face of the Olympics. NBC. I'm stopping here cause the list is endless. But just like wealthy people with lawyers can keep their driving privileges after 5 DUIs, money talks. Prince Andrew is a rapist pedophile and he's not in prison yet. I know R. Kelly is in trouble now, but long did he go free after that whole pissing on a kid thing? A decade? Mark Wahlberg did some questionable stuff during his youth. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson, more commonly known for his appearance as a village idiot on comedy panel show Have I Got News For You, once conspired to have a journalist beaten up. It's public knowledge but nobody cares, I think the all journos are scum narrative from the movie Green Street did Johnson a lot of favors. He technically didn't get away with it. But people love to forget Kobe Bryant was a rapist, to the point he settled a civil suit instead of being proven innocent. After he got off, he signed a $300 million deal with the Lakers to re-sign plus millions more in renewed endorsements, with the exception of McDonald's and Nutella choosing to not renew with him to their credit. When I see celebrities like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson go nuts using the term girl dad to describe his love of having daughters, it makes me cringe because it was coined by Kobe Bryant, who, once again, was a rapist. After he died in a plane crash, everyone went nuts about how wonderful he was, but once again, he was a rapist. We can't just give people perfect legacies because we like them. Shouldn't work that way. Jimmy Savile. The documentary Louis Theroux X did after it all came out is so disturbing. There's one interview in particular he does with a victim that made me feel physically sick. I get so angry thinking about it all. Let me think. James Charles. Jerry Seinfeld dates a high school girl. Everyone looked the other way. He was 38. She was 17. Steven Seagal. There's a 2-part podcast on him called Behind the Bastard and he's committed more crimes than I can list. Chris Brown. He literally beat the crap out of Rihanna and barely paid the consequences. Continues his successful life and ends up beating more girlfriends. Kobe was a piece of it rapist. But yay, let's keep calling him the GOAT. An actor named Ronald Reagan got away with the Iran-Contra affair. Don't forget Paul Walker dated a 16-year-old. Text below is from Google. Seems super sketchy too. Pilchard Gosnell started dating Walker when she was 16 and he was 33, but despite a 17-year age gap they were able to make their relationship work. She was reportedly beginning to become a stepmother to Walker's 15-year-old daughter Meadow. France's First Lady, Brigitte Macron. Everyone is acting like it's no big deal, but she actually started dating President Emmanuel Macron when he was underage, 15, and she was 39 and his high school teacher. Dr. Phil exploited unruly teenagers for his show and sent them to behavioral camps where they were physically and sexually abused, and he was fully aware that this was going on. Marcus Alonso, left back for Chelsea FC, was drink driving and got his passenger killed. Should have gone to prison. Payday $61,000 and is often brushed under the rug. Brock Turner, the rapist. Cardi B. She literally admitted to drugging guys and robbing them and nothing was done. She admitted it. Afluenza Ethan Couch. Doesn't quite fit the celebrity profile, but this piece of it got away with multiple murder mainly due to his family's wealth status and hypocrite judge. Mark Zuckerberg is constantly doing very shady and mostly illegal with his crappy apps, and nobody really seems to care that much. Jussie Smollett staged a hate crime on himself, and I say gotten away with it because I believe he only got 16 hours community service. Caitlyn Jenner ran someone over with her car and killed them. She's still walking free. I don't hate her because she's trans. I hate her because she's a piece of it. D. Cheney. He accidentally shot someone in the face with a shotgun and then the family of the victim apologized for it. Fortunately, the victim survived. Brendan Fraser has gotten away with the crime of stealing my heart 20 years ago. In my country, a person called Salman Khan got away after hunting black bucks. Casey Anthony definitely murdered her child. I guess she became something of a celebrity due to that, though, so not sure if that counts. Edit. Cardi B definitely fits the bill too. MR. Crabs. Ever wondered why there's only one crab in Bikini Bottom? Karl Malone got a 13-year-old pregnant, yet people don't talk about it as serious as it is, especially famous people. Ted Kennedy. He was directly responsible for the death of Lady and had a successful political career and even ran for president. Laura Bush ran a stoplight and killed somebody. Chris Brown. Mike Tyson. Leslie Grantham was an EastEnders, but he literally murdered a taxi driver in the 60s when he shot him in the head. And of course Toby Flenderson, convicted rapist. Caitlyn Jenner. She caused a car accident in which a driver died. Matthew Broderick caused the death of 2 during a car accident. Most people forgot about Broderick's accident, and the same year as the accident Caitlyn received the award for courage, since after the accident she came out, and most people forgot about her accident too. Riley Reid brags about raping a dude on Twitter. Jerry Lee Lewis. Everyone knows the story of him being a big pedo cunt and marrying his cousin. What people might not know is that Jerry had 2 wives die under suspicious circumstances. The evidence that was overlooked in the case of his second dead wife is so damning. I am 100% convinced that rotten piece of a killed her, and the local sheriff covered it up. Keanu Reeves kidnapped Napoleon and a bunch of historical figures by luring them into a telephone booth he would park at the local Circle K. A host of Celebrity Apprentice once tried to coerce state electors to defy the will of the voters and overthrow a democratic republic. What's his name again?